alaikum wa rahmatullah wa ta'ala wa barakatuh. I greet in the language of peace and of paradise, in the language of our mothers and forefathers with the greeting of Assalamu alaikum. And we begin all things in the illustrious name of our Creator. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. So myself, Hajj Ali, I'm here with my brother, son of Malcolm X, spiritual son of Malcolm X.
Assalamu barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Just here to clarify a few, let's say, issues related to the history of Malcolm X. And this is coming off of the back of the very engaging Netflix series. But we just felt that there was a few important bits of information that didn't find its way into the documentary series. But alhamdulillah, and we give the brother a salute because it was a grand effort.
Well, yes.
But we want to just touch on a few things about the history where there's clear evidence for, we believe, or quite possibly there's clear evidence. We'll find out at the end of this discussion. But we believe there's clear evidence that would suggest there have been some inaccuracies put in the public domain from various media platforms in the black community and by various individuals who are members of the Nation of Islam or were members of the Nation of Islam or supporters of the Nation of Islam, things of that nature. So I just want to really kick it off, my brother. And my first question or talking point or point of exploration is regarding Malcolm X leaving the nation. He's been charged by many members of the Nation of Islam of being a hypocrite and somebody that abandoned the movement or abandoned Elijah Muhammad's cause or abandoned the cause pertaining to that organization, the Lost Found Nation of Islam. Well, was Malcolm X pushed out of the nation, or did he abandon the Nation of Islam of his own free will? What's the context?
Well, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa ta'ala barakatuh. Greetings to you, brother Hajj Ali. Greetings to the Muslims and to the truth seekers who are out there listening to this very vital and important factual video. It is the holy month of Ramadan, and we're literally counting down the days now. So all of the Muslims, the Muqamins who are out there fasting and doing their ibadah, their works for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and charity, I would like to send my salams and peace to them all. And also I'd like to send peace to the family of El Hajj Malik Shabazz, who,
indeed,
when it gets to the 21st is always a difficult time. Sorry, with 19th, sorry, when it gets a difficult time because of his birthday. And so we hope that all you people who are sincere will listen to this recording and check out the details, check out the facts. Don't just listen to what we're saying, but check it out for yourself and do your own research, which is important. Now, getting back to your question, brother. Yeah, I believe that the real evidence is Malcolm was not kicked out of Malcolm was not left the Nation of Islam. He was clearly kicked out of the Nation of Islam, and that is undisputable. We can even listen to his own words here. For a second, just listen to him briefly.
Among the Chicago officials that I had a knowledge of this, they become very fearful of me. They became very antagonistic toward me, and they had to do something to diminish the authority that I had, for fear that if this became public knowledge, the followers would leave the Muslim movement and follow me. And it was at that time that they used the statement that I made against President Kennedy as a pretext to cut my authority, and some other things happened that finally produced the split or forced the split. And when I made the split, the only reason that I didn't make this public knowledge was I knew the implications, and I felt that if the Muslims who were in the Nation of Islam knew it, that would enable them to be so strongly religious and exercise moral discipline would be shattered, and it would cause all of them to go right back and start doing the things that they had been doing previously.
And so we can see there that Malcolm said it was through jealousy, envy, conniving, that he was forced out of the Nation of Islam. He did not make he didn't lead the nation of his own acquisition of his own words. Again, let's listen to him again here.
I always used in presenting, representing, and defending the Muslim movement was the fact that it had the ability to reform the morals of the so-called Negro community. It eliminated drug addiction, alcoholism, fornication, adultery, loose sexual behavior, which meant that it eliminated bastard babies, illegitimate children. But as long as I knew that this was what it represented, and it gave me a strong stick.
And just to stop there, I know you laughed, but this is very important because the illegitimate children, fornication, and bastard babies.
Yeah, it's a kind of a key word. It caught me off guard, but yes, indeed, very important, very important. As the conversation evolves, very important.
And no disrespect to people who call Robert Poole or Elijah honorable. I will not use that word because I'm not a hypocrite. I do not consider this man to be honorable. I admire the works he did to a degree, but because of the vessel that was used called Malcolm X. So I don't want any haters coming on and saying, oh, I'm being disrespectful, but I'm being realistic and honest to myself. He's not an honorable man, as far as I'm concerned. This is a man that taught that fornication was forbidden in his movement. This is a man that taught adultery was forbidden in his movement. This is a man that taught having bastard babies was
inappropriate
in his movement. Yet he broke these very rules himself. And as Malcolm has outlined, as long as Malcolm could defend a man that didn't do these acts, he could remain in the movement. But when he found out through Wallace, the son of Elijah Muhammad, the seventh son, he at that point decided that he could no longer, it was untenable for him to defend the actions of a dishonorable man.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to comment?
No, that's very interesting. You should say that, and you're rightly so with the context. For those who deem him to be honorable, I think it's right and exact for them to call him honorable.
Correct.
But if you do not find him honorable, then he is just Mr. Muhammad or Elijah or whatever, as the case may be.
That's how.
But he's not my leader, teacher, and guide, so I don't mean any disrespect by that, but I just want to be factual. He's not my leader, teacher, and guide. I've never been an inspiration to myself, so we say all praise is due to Allah.
So can we give a bit more Malcolm, if you don't mind? Do you mind a bit more Malcolm?
Yeah, by all means, please do. Okay. I do have a few more talking points we'd like to explore, but I'd like to hear the teacher speak.
Well, see, I understand all of it, but in a park, half a block from my house here, in the home of Alvin, who's also one of Elijah Muhammad's men, looking for a chance when they could, make their move. But thanks to Allah, they didn't get a chance.
So we can see here that when Malcolm was forced out the nation, there were attempts on his life by the nation to kill him. So this idea that the Nation of Islam had no intents or no ideas to kill Malcolm, or Elijah Muhammad made some edict to say, nobody touch a hair on the head of Malcolm X, is incorrect. Malcolm himself stated that they would try to kill him on many occasions. We're going to provide more evidence on that as well. And again, as we said, we're just providing evidence. We're just to counter the narrative that the Nation of Islam or other people are pushing, that Malcolm X was jealous. He wanted the position for himself of leadership, and that he made a coup d'etat attempt to overthrow Elijah Muhammad. This is spurious. This is disgusting. This is dishonorable, and there is not one shred of evidence to back this up. This is again with using a history hindsight after the event to try and create a patchwork of lies, which we intend to crumble today, now, with this video.
May I just say something before you play that video? There is a difference between what is historical fact and what is supposition or commentary or hypothesis based on historical events. So I think some events took place, like Malcolm not being in the nation, Malcolm establishing his own organization, Malcolm developing his own platform. However, the interpretation by the fanatics of the Lost Foundation of Islam and the fanatics of Elijah Muhammad will give it a different interpretation and a spurious interpretation.
Yes, this is because the Nation of Islam, unfortunately, is a cash cow. We know that it was funded by H.L. Hunt, a Texas billionaire in the 1960s, given $100,000 yearly, as well as funding the Ku Klux Klan. This is irrefutable doubt they cannot be challenged, and we will produce the evidence in the different series of talks that we'll be doing. We intend to ensure that whatever we say is backed up by irredoubtable facts, unshakable truths, and we will not leave a hook for you to put a doubt on. There will be no hooks for that to happen, because we believe we want to channel Malcolm from Jannah, because the Quran clearly says, those who have died in his way, think of them not as dead, for surely nay, they are alive and receiving sustenance from their Lord. Let's hear the words and the wise words again of El Hajj Malik, Sheikh Shabazz.
Effective. Well, in reality, I never even left the Muslim movement. They put me out. And they put me out because of what I knew.
Uh-oh.
Hello. Say what now?
Sorry?
I said, say what now?
Exactly. So we have Malcolm in his own words.
I did not leave.
No, he didn't leave.
Me out, and
They put me out.
And so Malcolm X
So
said,
as you can see, Malcolm said that they put him out. He didn't leave the nation. He was put out by Elijah Muhammad. Let's read again what we... Now, this is a book that we have, and it is called The Judas Factor. I think many people are aware of this particular book. It's a well-known book, you know, and it was by Carl Evans, The Judas Factor.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're coming with heavyweight facts today, brother. Now, if we turn to page 171, and I quote, sorry, page 170, I'm sorry, Judas Factor by The Plot to Kill Malcolm X by Carl Evans. Muhammad said, but you know Allah is punishing Wallace right now. It looks as if he's losing his mind. How else, the messenger implied, could one explain a son's obsession in undermining his own father? I've already announced in Philadelphia that Wallace is suspended from teaching, Muhammad said. After a short pause to catch his breath, Muhammad continued his tirade against Malcolm X. He recounted how he had helped Malcolm X get out of prison early by reforming him. And he mentioned the $1,000 monthly salary he paid him. Then the messenger dropped a bomb on his national spokesman. I'm suspending you for an indefinite time, Elijah Muhammad told him. Malcolm X's voice quivered as he begged the messenger for forgive him. I'm going to be watching you to see if you become stronger, Elijah Muhammad said, strong enough to resist this poison Wallace is pouring over my people. The messenger slammed down the phone. As the top aide congratulated the messenger on his Oscar-worthy performance in bringing Malcolm X to his knees, the truth of the matter was that all of them, Malcolm X, Wallace, the aide, the messenger's wife, and of course Muhammad himself, all knew that the charges were true. What say you?
Charges, brother. Brother, you say charges. That leads us onto our, quite handily onto our next talking point, right? Because there has been a discrepancy or a issue regarding whether Elijah Muhammad had more than one wife, as in he was involved in polygamy, or he had jump-offs or side chicks, colloquialism, or mistresses at the same time as his known and legal wife. Because I was led to believe that history teaches us that he denied having any extramarital affairs or any involvement with any other women apart from his wife at the time in the 1960s, and that Malcolm was a liar, and that Malcolm was trying to undermine him, and that Malcolm was acting out of malice. However, 25 years later, a gentleman called Louis Farrakhan brought these...
Louis Walcott.
Louis Walcott, X, or Louis Farrakhan as he's known now, brought these ladies, or a number of ladies on stage saying that these were always his wives, and that Malcolm had come to us to try to get us to go against him and, you know, act in a malevolent way. So I'm confused who, if the man himself, when he was alive, denied these women, how can Mr. Farrakhan, come on stage 25 years later and say that these actually were his wives? Is he employing technology, or is there something else going on? Am I missing a beat?
Well, again, I will actually respond to that, but let's go back in time, back in history to 1964, and listen to the great man again on this very point. He may help to elucidate and to expand your point of query.
Stated in a newspaper article about an effort to take my life back in January, and at that time the Muslims denied it. Why are they threatening your life? Well, primarily because they're afraid that I will tell the real reason that I'm out of the Black Muslim movement, which I never told. I kept to myself. But the real reason is that Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls. 6 teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. The one who first made me aware of this was Wallace Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad's son. And it was their fear that if I remained in the Black Muslim movement, and this came into the knowledge of his followers, that they would leave him and follow me. A plan immediately was set in motion to take me down, put me out. And the statement that I made about Kennedy was used as a pretext to take me down. Did you get out of what you take to protect yourself from this threat? I take no steps. I have a rifle. If anybody comes to my house without a good reason, I intend to try and use it. That's all.
Now let's go a bit further here. Again, let's return to the Judas factor. Let's return to the Judas factor.
Interesting read, brother. Interesting read.
Very interesting, brother. You see, history is best qualified to reward all research. And today, this is what it's about. It's about, what do we always talk about? Psychoanalytical and psychosocial and historical perspectives, brother.
Oh, this is psycho-history, brother.
Psycho-history, brother. And some people will be going psycho over the history. But let's continue channeling Brother Malcolm, because Brother Malcolm is overseeing this, and we want to make him proud of the works that we're doing. Now, we turn to page 244 of the Judas Factor. According to Carl Evans, although the 4th of July, and I quote, although the 4th of July was a day away, the fireworks started early in Elijah Muhammad's Chicago home. The telephones rang incessantly as radio reporters, newspaper journalists, and startled members of the Nation of Islam sought corroboration of the story that appeared in nearly every major newspaper on July the 3rd, 1964. Now remember this. This isn't Malcolm putting this in the paper. This is the newspaper themselves printing about the fornication, the adultery, the bastard children of Liverpool. 24 hours later, Lucille Rosary and Evelyn Williams, stop here. Lucille and Rosary, at certain times in their history, were dating Malcolm X. And one of them was, and either of them, Malcolm was intending to marry. He personally brought them into the Nation of Islam. He personally sent them.
Is it correct that he personally tutored them and made them fit?
And made them fit to go before the messenger to be secretary. But then Malcolm was disappointed and almost distraught when he found out that they were made pregnant by Robert Poole. And their children, their bastard children, were denied and not taken care of. And at a court, public court that Robert Poole presided over himself, he called these women harlots. He called them whores. He called them Jezebels. He said they had disgraced him, and he put them out the movement. And at that time, there was different forms of suspension. You could have a permanent suspension, or you could have a temporary. He put a permanent.
So there could be expulsion or suspension.
Communicated, brother. And the X is revoked. This meant that no person in the Nation of in the Allah cult of Islam could, and I'm using the name they call themselves.
That was one of the preliminary names?
Yeah, the Allah temple or the Allah cult, yes.
Was it called the Allah temple, Allah cult of Islam or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Some of the names that I was used initially. And again, this is no disrespect to the Nation of Islam. We love the brothers and the sisters in the Nation of Islam under Farrakhan, under Lewis Walcott. But we have to put the truth out today. The truth isn't pretty, brother, but the truth has to be told to free our people. So let's go back to the quote of the book. I quote again, 24 hours earlier, Lucille Rosary and Evelyn Williams, two of Elijah's former secretaries who had borne his children, had filed paternity suits against him in Los Angeles Superior Court. Malcolm X had suggested to the editors at the New York Amsterdam News that they run a story regarding Elijah Muhammad's illegitimate children. But the editors, fearing a libel suit, said they wouldn't touch the subject unless there was legal action. Subsequently, during their visit to Los Angeles, Malcolm X retained Gladys Towles Root on behalf, which was the lawyer, on behalf of the secretaries who had been trying for years to consistently get child support from Elijah Muhammad. According to the lawsuits, Elijah Muhammad had fathered 3 children by the 2 women, and the 4th was about.
So were these filed by these ladies? Because they couldn't be filed without their permission or signature or something. I'm taking it.
Filed by the ladies, yes.
Okay.
According to the lawsuits, Elijah Muhammad had fathered 3 children by the 2 women, and a 4th was about to be born. In asking the court to order the messenger to pay child support, the paternity actions alleged that the 67-year-old leader of the Nation of Islam had once acknowledged paternity and contributed to the children's support. So he did acknowledge these bastard children at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the constant harassment he wasn't paying enough, and he wouldn't acknowledge them, he wouldn't bring them on stage, and he wouldn't say they were his children. The woman said, no, we're not going to be your side pieces.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a quote. That's my addendum to the amendum. Carry on, this could be with quote. But later, he denied them. When Mrs. Root, the solicitor, first contacted Elijah about the prospect of filing a paternity action against him, he fingered someone else as the children's father. Stop. End of quote. So at that point, when he was being charged with the paternity suit, he then tried to get another person to say that they were the father of the children.
So when you use that word suit, it's quite interesting because in Jamaican culture, I believe they would call that a jacket.
Jacket, correct. Correct, Tomondo. So this directly opposes Lewis Walcott's pathetic, disgraceful,
revisionist history
and sham in 1993, you said, or 2 it was, when he brought these women on stage and tried to say they were his wives and they were married, because no one else believed that or knew that at the time. And if this was the case, if they were his wives, as Malcolm said, they would have been brought into the nation, they would have been given full honor, full dignity, it would have been known to the world. If Malcolm was lying and a hypocrite and a Benedict Arnold, you could have shut his mouth by simply saying, this is ridiculous, because everybody in the nation knows these are his wives. Everybody in the nation knows the honor and the respect they have. But no one, because Elijah Muhammad didn't want no one to know. And a good point that you brought up in our primary discussion, which was, if you are the messenger, if you are the one sent by Allah himself, your private life is not to be hidden, is not to be, something where you secret. If you are an example to your followers, you can't say, well, don't follow me in this respect, because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who they call the messenger for the Arabs, he had there's books about how he was married and what he did, and everything's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it a shame? And if Malcolm simply said, you have these women and these children, why are you upset? And if they were not illegitimate as Malcolm was saying they were, you could have shut his mouth. But at no time, Mr. Farrakhan, Lewis Walcott, did you even step to Malcolm, apart from saying he's worthy of death, he's a Benedict Arnold and a hypocrite. You never once said, well, he's lying about the messenger in terms of these are his wives. During Malcolm's life.
I just want to take something up there. So it seems as if there was always an accusation of him being a liar, but it wasn't clear what he lied about.
No, it was always supposition, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's character assassination, essentially.
And let's continue just quickly more. He said in page 244, the Judas Factor, Elijah, about the prospect of filing a paternity action against him, fingered someone else as the child's father. He tried to induce an assistant to assume responsibility for the paternity, Mrs. Root told the Chicago Tribune, so he could keep his spiritual image on a high plane in the eyes of his followers. So can you imagine this person who's supposed to be the spiritual head of a movement, close quote, sorry, the spiritual head of a movement has no shame, no honor, no dignity.
No goddamn integrity.
No goddamn integrity, brother, to admit his fault, to seek forgiveness for his fault. We know about Tawbah. If he's in contact with Allah, why didn't he just ask Allah to forgive him and for Tawbah? Why would he, to cover his nakedness and his shame, use the fig leaf of assassination to cover his shame of his wicked iniquities? This is why I cannot call this particular man honorable. And I cannot call him the most honorable. And I cannot call Louis Farrakhan honorable, Mr. Louis Farrakhan, because he knows it's chicanery. He knows it's a lie. He knows it's a falsehood and an untruth. But in order for Farrakhan to exist, he must resist the truth.
Okay. Very, very interesting feedback. Much appreciated, much appreciated. We're coming towards the end of this section. And before I close out, I just wanted to know if there were any last things you wanted to leave the listeners.
Let me see if there's
obviously move in the context of what we've discussed.
Yes. I think it's important that the listeners understand that Malcolm was not a hypocrite. He was not a liar. He in no way betrayed Elijah Muhammad. The betrayer was Elijah Poole, or Robert Poole. The liar was Robert Poole. The person who actually ordered Malcolm's death was Robert Poole. Now you may say, oh, brother, son of Malcolm, you're being too hard on him. You're not respecting the great works he did in building up the black community and the black and what he did for raising Malcolm X. We are going to, in this series, dismantle every single lie and every single mystical, esoteric, philosophical sophistry you will present to defend this man. We will leave this man shamed and naked and exposed for who he is and for who he really is. And we have to just, in closing, let's just talk about, did he order the death of Malcolm X? Well, according to, again, the Judas Factor, page 177. On January the 7th, 1964, and I quote, the FBI taped a conversation involving Elijah Muhammad. We should have, but didn't, result in his arrest. I'll say that again. On January the 7th, and I quote, 1964, the FBI taped a conversation involving Elijah Muhammad. We should have, but didn't, result in his arrest. The messenger made a veiled reference to killing Malcolm X. And I quote, it's time to close, and I won't use the word, his eyes. Elijah Muhammad said, I quote, it's time to close his eyes, Elijah Muhammad said. I quote, it's time to close his eyes, Elijah Muhammad said.
Wow. Wow,
When
brother.
A quote again. When the Chicago Bureau of the FBI received these transcripts of this tape, it realized and chronicled its successful counterintelligence program against Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad had now been in effect. It sent a boastful memorandum to Hoover at the FBI headquarters. So now Elijah, to cover, an end of quote, in order for Robert Poole now to cover his iniquities, his sin, his lies, he was prepared to throw Malcolm under the bus, prepared to put all of the poison on Malcolm. Even though prior to this, he'd met Malcolm And when Malcolm said, is it correct what I've been hearing from Wallace about these bastard children? He did not deny it. He said it is correct. But I am like Daniel, and I am like David when he saw Bathsheba. I am like, I have to fulfill the sinful acts of the prophets of the Bible. So these acts, I have to fulfill them. But so Malcolm decided to teach that these are all prophecy to protect the nation. So Malcolm's initial response was to protect Elijah and the nation. But then the family, the royal family, like Herbert Muhammad, and these were people who, Elijah Muhammad's sons, who hated Malcolm, would use it to build a rift between Malcolm, along with John Ali, who was a FBI agent, other agents who were in the Nation of Islam, and to cause dissension and to get and split Malcolm from his teacher, which they did successfully. But it was through avarice and the green-eyed monster of jealousy that did that.
Wow, brother, you've laid down some powerful information in this discussion, some very thought-provoking information in discussion, some enlightening information in discussion, and the best thing about it is that there is documentation, there is receipts to substantiate your points that you've made. We do intend, by the grace of Allah, to come back and tackle some more nitty-gritty subjects within this narrative of the Lost Foundation of Islam, or the Allah cult of Chicago, or the Muslim voodoo cult, as some of the different names that they went under.
Oh, we got
but more commonly known in this day and time as the Nation of Islam, or NOI. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for your commentary. I would just like to say, closing out, truth and falsehood went out for a swim one day. And while truth was in the water, the lie got out of the water earlier and stole his clothes.
Amen.
So in this day and time, when people come with a lie,
that's right,
it is often clothed in the truth.
Speak on that, sir. Speak on that.
But when I come with the truth, I have to come with the naked truth. We thank you for your time. We thank you for listening. And it's been a pleasure. Till next time, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah from me, son of Malcolm. Rahmatullah wa barakatuh.